Alright, Mr. Blevins here again. Now, in the last video, I showed you how to make the bird base. So you should be here. If you have not made a bird base yet, then the easy thing to do would be to say, oh, you start out with a square of origami paper, already creased like the bird base, and then you just magically pull everything up and the bird base falls into place as so. But the easier way to solve your problem if you don't have the bird base would be to go back and watch the other video in which I fold the bird base. And then once you got to the end of it, you would have the model you see in front of you. You would have the bird base. Now, the model I'm going to make today is kind of a fun one to make. Entertain yourself a little bit there. But it branches off of that original bird base. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do after you get here. It's just got a couple of quick steps. So first of all, holding down this top part, you don't really have to hold it, it'll stay in place. You just fold this flap back up along that line. So only the top flap along that line. So you just took the one, folded it up. Flip the model over. Take that same, well, not the exact same one, but respective to the side, the top flap, just like you did on the other side, and fold it up. So now you've got that nice elongated diamond shape with the two flaps you just folded up. They have this little triangle in between them, and the two you just folded upward are up here on this side. And then the other two little peaks, they're not connected to each other, they're just free flowing here, are down on the other end. Okay? What you want to do from here, I would orient it so that these guys, let's have them facing away from you. These guys are facing away from you. So the flaps you just folded up are pointing away from you. The two little free peaks should be pointing toward you. Now, what you're going to want to do is you should have two layers over here on this side. You should have a bottom layer down along the table and a top layer up facing kind of toward you. What you want to do is you want to kind of open between those two layers, and you're going to do what's called a reverse fold. Now, a reverse fold just means that though I am folding here, I'm folding it toward the inside, and I'm doing the same thing on both sides of the model at the same time. Now that sounds really complicated, but in practice it's really not that hard. What you're basically doing is you're taking this point down here, so all on this one little peak, all on just this guy, you're taking the point down at the bottom, and you're kind of turning it inside out and pulling it upward. So, see how it's kind of opening the model there? You're kind of turning this peak inside out and pulling up at the same time. So it turns this little peak that was all the way down here beside this peak, it turns it inside out and pulls it kind of upward. And what you want to make sure of is that when you push it back down, so you're going to flatten the model back out, trying to give you a view from all sides here. You're going to kind of flatten it out along a diagonal that comes from this very center point of your large diamond that you had a moment ago. It comes from that center point and kind of leads outward at about what looks like, what ends up looking like, not that great at eyeballing an angle there, but it's going to be a very small angle off of there. But it's going to make a diagonal. And what it's going to end up looking like when you get it pulled through just right and flattened out just right, it's going to end up looking like that. Alright? It's important that that diagonal down here doesn't come up past this the point where this horizontal line that you made earlier lies. You don't want it going all the way up in here somewhere. You want it to be right where it kind of just intersects right at that line you've got there. So you've got this center line going down the top, and it should all of those should meet at a point right here. So your horizontal should meet this diagonal you just made and this vertical center line. They should all meet at a point right there. Okay? But Mr. Blevins, we didn't get enough of that inside reverse fold you just did. Don't worry, you're going to get to do it with the other flap that's sticking down. So, you kind of do that exact same thing. You take this peak and you reverse it, turn it inside out, and pull up so that it ends up looking exactly like the other side. So you want your model to kind of look, I guess that kind of looks like a W or maybe a crown, I'm not sure, but it looks like that. And if you look at the end-on view, you should kind of have, let's go back there we go. You should kind of have this peak sticking up that you folded up from the bottom. You should have this little triangle that's kind of tucked in between the two bigger flaps. And you should have these two big flaps sticking up. These two big flaps that are on the outside are going to end up being your wings. One of these two peaks is going to be your tail, and one will be your head. And then this will kind of be the bottom of the bird. Alright? So the way that we're going to distinguish the head from the tail, it doesn't matter to me which one of these peaks you want to be your head or your tail. I'm going to pick the one over here just because. And you're going to do the same thing you did when you folded that flap up from down here to where it is now, except you're going to do it on a smaller scale out in the tip of this one. So you're going to fold it back down, kind of turn it inside out as you go, and it's going to do that. Head. We're done. That end is finished. You've basically got your bird now. But the last step, if you want full bird, achievement here, is to take the wings, just the outer layer of the wing, and kind of make a diagonal that goes from, you can still see this horizontal crease you've got going across the bird. Let's see if I can get you can kind of see mine going there. It's got a line already on the wing. What you want to do is you want a diagonal that starts right on that horizontal here and goes up to a point, it doesn't have to be exact, but a point probably right along where the top of the neck sticks out there. So you want to just fold this down on kind of that imaginary line you just sketched out for yourself. So that the wing comes down about like that. Alright? Now you're going to want to do that to the other side, so flip the bird over and take the wing and do the exact same thing. It's easier to do the second one because all you got to do is kind of lay it on top of the one that you already did. And just crease it down. So now you have that. Now, that doesn't look very much like a bird unless you've been out beside the road and seen a car go by kind of quick, and then the bird looks nice and flat like that. But most birds, hopefully, have kind of a three-dimensional shape. So if you take your bird and you just kind of put your fingers under the wings and pull up a little bit, don't unfold them completely, but just kind of pull up a little bit, it should make the wings kind of stick out to the side. Now, the great thing about this model is that if you take your thumb and forefinger of one hand and hold the bird right here, right under the wing. So your thumb should be right under the wing. Your finger on the other side should be right under the wing. Let's get back on camera here. If you hold them right under the wing, so right up front, right at the neck, right under the wings, and then you take your other hand and you grab the tail. If you pull the tail straight in this direction, so away from the bird, very gently, this one should, oh, I didn't tear that, that's just the paper coming unlocked there. It's really not torn if you need to see, not torn. But if you pull that tail kind of away from the bird, this one will actually flap its wings for you. So you can amaze your friends, you can make toys for children. It'll flap its wings, and you can make it fly away.